Hey everybody, I'm on vacation this week, but I'm going to do my best to give you some pretty quick survivor picks and cautionary tales for week 6 in the NFL. Number one pick to be cautious of this week are the Raiders hosting the Titans here, only -4.5, which is pretty par for the course against a team like the Titans. But what's interesting to me is the Raiders only been able to put up 6 points against the Colts in that 40-6 beatdown. Geno Smith, that quarterback, cannot control the ball and cannot stay away from turnovers, and that defense can't really stop anybody. I would not be confident taking the Raiders this week. Certainly a pick off the beaten path if you're trying to be a little bit different than everyone else, but I could easily see that one biting Raiders pickers in the butt there. Another one that's a little bit interesting line this week is the Bills -3.5 at Atlanta. Obviously, the Bills having that loss against the Patriots, stunning loss on Sunday Night Football. You would think against a team like the Falcons that has looked really poor at times, thinking back to that big loss and shutout to the Panthers, that the Bills would be favored by a little bit more. It's a little bit intriguing to me that they're only 3.5-point favorites, albeit on the road. Falcons coming off a bye, but it seems a little fishy of a line to me. I wouldn't expect Josh Allen and the Bills to lose 2 straight games, but being only a 3.5-point favorite is a little bit too weary for me to take this week. And then finally, the Steelers -4.5. I think Steelers are going to be a pretty popular pick this week. They are playing a divisional opponent, the Browns, who are boasting one of, if not the best defenses in the NFL this season, with a really low total in this game and low score prediction. It could go either way. If it comes down to a Myles Garrett sack or a Denzel Ward pick, especially with the way Aaron Rodgers has looked as of late, you never know what the outcome of this game could be. That being said, I think there's a ton of value to the Steelers this week, coming off a bye especially. The Steelers team, despite having a really weak, I think all 1 to 2 wins in the rest of the division, Steelers still aren't even favored to win the AFC North. That shows you what odds makers thinks of this team being relatively weaker unit. But more so, that's where the value comes in. Why it's a good play this week is Mike Tomlin off a bye has been nearly perfect in his career. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the league. He's coached close to 20 seasons, and he's won a vast majority of the games coming off a bye. For that reason, facing rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel, who looked pretty decent against a really tough Vikings defense, it still should be a good spot for this Steelers team with the bye week here. But I don't love taking divisional games, but you cannot deny the value that comes with the Steelers and Mike Tomlin off a bye being favored here at home. Another good value play, just as it was last week, is the Colts here. Another 6.5-point favorites facing the Cardinals, who really shot themselves in the foot in a royal way in this game against the Titans, handing them their first win. The Cardinals, every time I watch them this year, keep continuing to find ways to shoot themselves in the foot and lose games when they're in good positions. This is just a team that is a lot of talent in a lot of spots in the football field, but extremely dysfunctional from a unit perspective. The Colts seem to be firing on all cylinders as a team, being more than just the sum of their parts, especially when Daniel Jones is controlling the football, which he's done in all the games that they've won. They can continue that recipe. They should handle the Cardinals, but it's worth noting that the Cardinals should have won that game. They're a decent team that have a lot of talent, and they're certainly a team capable of stunning a few teams and putting up an upset themselves. So something to keep aware. That's why it's not the best pick and just a good value pick. And then finally, the best pick of the week. Everyone's probably all on the same page for this one, but it's the Packers hosting the Bengals here at home. 14.5-point favorite. Coming off a bye. Josh Jacobs looking elite at running back right now for the Packers. Wide receivers doing a good job of rounding out one of the deepest units in the wide receiver position in the league. Jordan Love, when he's hitting his deep bombs and throws and playing against weaker coverage units, looks incredible, and that's exactly what he's going up against with the Bengals, who have continued to let up copious amounts of points from the defensive side of the football. On offense, they have been too much better. They came alive a little bit in the fourth quarter there against the Lions, but that was all garbage time, 3 touchdowns. I think the score is a little bit misleading and not truly indicative of the beatdown that the Lions put on the Bengals that week. And I think you're going to see the Packers do something similar coming off a bye. Matt LaFleur, a really good head coach too, is very well off the bye week in his career, and that bodes well for the Packers here. Coming off 2 straight games where they haven't won, coming off a bye, going against a really weak Bengals team. It's a terrific spot to be taking the Packers this week, and something I'm going to think heavily about. But that's really in the video this week, trying to keep it short and sweet as I'm not in the usual location. Again, I think there's a lot of value in the Steelers given Mike Tomlin's success off the bye week, but I generally try to stay away from divisional games, and if that's your philosophy too, I think the Colts are in a good spot if you haven't picked them yet. There's a few other teams that are favored by a decent amount. Like I know the Eagles are favored by 7 points. Broncos are favored by 7 points. Those are road teams typically where you see some upsets happen in the NFL. So something I also try to stay away from. But then, Colts, Packers, hard to deny the great pick there. Not often you see teams favored by 2 touchdowns in the NFL these days. I think Packers are in a really prime spot where they need to pick up a win, and that's a really safe option this week in Week 6. In Week 7, I'll be in a much more familiar setting, and looking forward to talking to you guys then. Thanks.